everybody. Welcome back to Suspenders Unbuttoned Podcast. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Julie. And we're excited to welcome Dr. Mark Schnellinger. Welcome, Mark.
Cool. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. I'm Dr. Mark, and I wrote the Medicine Stars.
Yeah, and this is a fun connection for me. I work with Dr. Mark in the emergency room at the Children's Hospital.
Exactly. Yeah, and I appreciate you having me on. Much appreciated.
And my fun fact was you wrote a book, which I did not know.
Here we are.
And here we are. Well, welcome. We're excited to have you, and we're excited to learn about your book. So why don't you tell us about the Medicine Stars and maybe what sparked the book?
Okay, so thank you again. So the Medicine Stars is something that I kind of had an idea for some time. And my work in the pediatric ER has allowed me to see on the front line what patients take away. So when we speak to patients of appropriate ages, what we're saying and what they receive sometimes may be two different things, right? So, and then especially when you're talking to a child who may be ill or injured or scared to be there, what they're really receiving from you may not be what you're doling out, if you will, right? And that goes for the parents as well. So I kind of saw this little gap in what I call translational medicine, like what I'm saying and what is received. Right. It's not always on target. And I had a good friend of mine, actually, Julie, maybe you know his name was Tim. He worked at Children's for some time, and he was an author and an inventor, and he very creative guy. And somehow we met through some committee that I was on, and we hit it off. And next thing you know, we're kind of like a little bromance going on. We're in like cafes and we're talking about books and toys and all sorts of fun things and cartoons in his books. And he encouraged me to write, to start writing. You should hone this idea that you have and start writing. And I always told him, well, I don't know if it's really going to work or not. And then I was invited to another meeting where he was supposed to be at. So I was kind of excited I would see him. And someone came up to me in the meeting and said, hey, listen, Tim's not here. I'm sorry. I said, okay, I didn't know. And he goes, yeah, unfortunately there was an accident and he passed away. And it was that meeting was a shadow for me. And going forward, it took some time. It knocked me on my butt for a while. And that he was gone. He was someone that I could actually kind of geek out about this stuff as an adult in a safe place and just have fun with it. Somebody who was also had gone through all of these processes and who was very encouraging. So I thought to myself, you know what? I made him a promise that I was going to sit down and write, and I did. And then as I started writing, a lovely thing called the pandemic showed up. And as we all know, it kind of flipped everyone's world on its side. People were losing their jobs, getting cuts in pay, all the uncertainty. So I said, maybe going through this book right now or finishing it is not the best thing right now. So I put it on the shelf for a little while. But then again, through work, I went into a room and saw a pretty ill child. And her mom had brought like a little fishing tackle box with her favorite charms in it. Like they knew they were going to be there a while. And she brought like little moons and little hearts and little stars, things of that nature. So to try to get on her level, so to speak, I started to tell her that, hey, the doctor's favorite symbol are stars, because I already had the book kind of in the background. And I could examine her as I was talking to her, and we became buddies. And then a little while later, I came back to see her again to see how she was doing, and she made this for me and held it up and said, I made this for you, all the little stars. So I've worn it ever since. And then I went home that night, and I said, as I often do, I'll sit down in my kitchen with a dog here and a dog there and a cat over there, and I'll pop my headphones on. And I usually take 10 or 15 minutes to let the day simmer out. But that night I stared at the folder on my computer that said the Medicine Stars. And I said, maybe there's something to this. And I clicked on it and started writing. And 5 a.m, I said, boy, I better go to bed now. 60, 70 pages later, I was turning out, and then the ball kind of rolled from there. That's the origins of the Medicine Stars.
So why did you pick asthma versus any of the other pediatric healthcare disease states we see?
Well, my hope is to, work with nonprofits, different organizations dealing with different illnesses and injuries. And there's a little bit of a secret here. This is actually the second book The first one was already written, but it sits on a shelf in the room because it was about viruses.
Oh.
And I didn't know what was coming our way. So I thought at that time, maybe writing about viruses, people are getting kind of sick of that word, and it's too much, it's too soon, put that one away. So then I thought about like all the different types of illnesses, not to like give away any secrets, but I wrote children's and said, hey, what are the top 100 diagnoses? And they sent me a list of different diagnoses, and I went through that list, and I thought, what is an illness that has extremes, right? It could be very mild and only affect you once in a blue moon. Unfortunately, could be deadly. And then there's a lot of middle ground. And do most people on the street know something about asthma? If I mention asthma to you on the street, someone, well, it's trouble breathing, or it's, you have cough, or you have, oh, my friend has that, my cousin has that, my kid has that. So I wanted to find something that I could sort of break this concept out there using a particular illness that most people would at least know something about already. And, choosing like some genetic disorder that 9 people have in the world probably wouldn't have gone over. It's unfortunate for them, but you know what I mean? I wanted to find something a little more global that people could recognize, and then also understand the concept of the book and how you're trying to teach through the book.
Right. So what age group is this book geared towards?
Technically, I mean, it could be really anybody. We're technically 8 to 14 and older, or for their parent. I have met a few people in the ER who say, oh, my 6-year-old is reading it. They love it. But there is a little Greek mythology in there, and that we talk about things like that. So to try to hang tight with that and hang tight with the concept. So I think like 8 or 9 to 14 is probably the sweet spot.
So you picked characters with mythological names. Why'd you decide to go down that path?
Well, is that in trying to hone in this story, and what's the angle? How are you going to teach about asthma through an adventure story? Mm-hmm. So it's centered around 2 worlds: the world that we live in, the Earth, and then the other world called Core, which is technically the inside of our body. Mm-hmm. But instead of seeing blood vessels and livers and hearts and beating and things like that, Core looks exactly like the world we live in, and so does Earth. And they are bound by the stars in the sky. And then more specifically, a particular constellation called Ophiuchus, which is a constellation of healing, otherwise known as the medicine stars. And the Greek gods live in the stars above. And Hades, the god of the underworld, doesn't want children to do well. He wants children in his underworld. But his nemesis, Asclepius, or the god of healing, obviously wants children to heal. So they're battling up in the stars, and it's affecting the 2 worlds underneath them.
Yeah, I think it's a great, like you said, sweet spot for this age group, because when you start getting into like Harry Potter and like the Percy Jackson books, and then you're like, I know my daughter who's 14 now loves Greek mythology, so something like that would definitely pique her interest.
Perfect. And it's not heavy on that side. It's light. I mean, but hopefully you can hang with.
But drawing those connections.
Correct. Right. It allows a little fantasy as well. For myself as the author, you can play a lot with that. There's a lot of room to navigate different worlds and different settings, and some have likened it to a Percy Jackson type adventure story with medicine kind of in between.
Right. In fact, the kids in this story are very relatable, and you have them skateboarding. That's their activity of choice. Why'd you pick skateboarding?
Luca and Soleil, oddly enough, are my kids. And Luca probably doesn't know how to pick up a skateboard. He's just not that kind of guy, but he's big on the technical side of things. And Soleil, at the time, I was sitting outside in my backyard, and I was like, geez, how do you explain the lungs to a child, right? How do you explain that? So I was watching my daughter skateboard with Mengistu and with Tilly, who are some of her best friends. And they would go to Third Layer, a little skateboarding park here in the area, many times. And I thought, geez, how about something where the kids have to go skateboarding down at the tunnels, i.e. the lungs, that are getting swollen and that are leaking and that are howling winds and wheezing winds down there, and they have to get to the control rooms or to the end of the lungs of the alveoli before they break down, or in medical term, atelectasis, right? So I kind of felt like, boy, that'd be a nice way to kind of have lungs explained via a tunnel system.
Yeah.
Right. You can picture the kids skateboarding through.
Yeah,
They even have a checklist. It includes a helmet.
yeah, on their outfits they have a spacer. So for children who use the inhaler, they have the spacer. So they have spacers, and they can spray. Julie would know, beta agonist or your albuterol, your asthma medicines onto the walls to help them stop to leak and to be swollen, so they can get to the control rooms and shut things down before Hades destroys the place and gets all the kids to the underworld.
Right.
So,
Love it. So
yeah.
you mentioned this was the second one you've actually written.
Yeah.
Will there be more?
I would like that too. So anybody viewing, if there are nonprofits or organizations that have that support an illness or an injury, I would love to talk to them. I would love to write an adventure specifically for that population, and proceeds could go to their chosen areas, so that they can continue their education and desire to find a cure or to help children out there that are in need. Yeah, for sure, absolutely, I would love that. I have already like 7 adventures in my head. Already, I have like a Formula one. I have one for diabetes. I have one for leukemia in my head. I have one for the trick is trying to find the adventure that matches up with the medical issue,
Right.
and kind of making them seamless, and then being creative within that circle.
I liked how there was actually a kid that needs to be seen for an asthma exacerbation. Was it important to show how a child can be helped in a medical situation?
I think so. I think that in the book, it's again, because you have 2 worlds. That's the other thing. You got to try to keep it straight here. What world are we in, and keep it so that the child doesn't get lost in that. So I had Dr. Reed, as you know,
Dr. Reed
running oddly enough, Dr. Reed is running a resuscitation of a child who lives in the inner city, unfortunately exposed to pollution. We also want to try to have a little social realm here that you teach where these things can be made worse. And his mom is worried about him and brings him in with an asthma exacerbation, and Dr. Reed is helping. The literature would say that Asclepius, the god of healing, healed you while you slept, right? And that's where we get the snakes around the medical symbol. It's Asclepian snakes. That's what he used, the non-venomous snakes, to help heal people. So when that child presents to that child, by the way, is named Jean-Marc, he presents to the ER, Sam helps him, or Dr. Reed helps him, but then the child falls asleep. And when he falls asleep is when Asclepius can come and say, are we allowed to enter your core or your inner being, so that we can kind of go through this adventure, and hopefully positive energy will come through the stars to heal him. Yes, it's also a way of sometimes we look up and we hope that somebody out there is going to help our ill or injured one. Julie, you just dealt with some health issues in your family, things like that. And where does this energy sometimes come from? There's a beauty to that mystery of what might lie behind the stars.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. It sounds like this book, or potentially a series of books, could not only help a child that's dealing with this particular issue, but also like friends and classmates of family members.
And I sat down with an author in the area before I wrote even the first one. And she said, Mark, this is great, about asthma, but how about the kids who don't have asthma?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how these things kind of got molded. Like, oh, I got to sit down and think about that angle as well. Hence the 2 worlds, and kind of lots of cups of coffee at local coffee shops, trying to think about how am I going to mold these 2 worlds. And exactly, Sarah, like how do the child may have asthma, what about the kid who doesn't have asthma, but the person sitting next to them, their best friend does. So I can learn a little bit about that too, and just have fun reading the adventure.
You do a lot of teaching, because you teach like what's happening with the body, and then you also do a lot of med teaching when in the books. Was that important?
I felt it's important. I think it's also important for the parent as a support network, or their family around them. Like, hey, listen, we meet you and I, Julie, and maybe Sarah, you've dealt with this in your world. Lots of parents who also don't kind of get this stuff. You think it's intuitive, but it's not always. So I thought, maybe at the end, 3 pages for the parent, like very bare bones, basic. Yeah. This is what asthma is. This is why we give the inhaler or the nebulizer. This is why you get a steroid. There's potential homeopathic treatments out there that people look into. Sort of a bare bones, hey, this is why we're doing what we're doing. And again, this all feeds back to what I learned as a PDR doctor and encountering these situations frontline where I see that families is just kind of not getting it, or we just come in for asthma. I don't know, just do your thing. Like, okay, let's do our thing. Like, why are we doing this? And there's some people want to know the why behind it, right? So I felt it important. And actually, Asthma Canada was very gracious, and they took that little section, as was Dr. Moore at Children, and helped to edit it and to input what would be important from a pulmonologist standpoint to teach children at a very bare bones level. Because again, I know my area, but they have certain information they're trying to inject to their families and to get out there. Like, this is really the crust of what we want them to know. Get that in that section.
But you really wove it into the story. It's really part of their adventure. And it doesn't matter if it's the child who has the disease state or the people who are alongside. Exactly. And so, just like their friends can learn from this. It's really a great book.
Exactly. And hopefully brings about support, right? That's really it. And it makes this setting a less threat. If I told you you're going into this dark room, you'd be like, okay, I don't know what to expect here. But if I told you you're going to go in there, on your left, there's a button for a light. On the right, if you know a little bit about what you're going to encounter, then it's already a little less threatening, right? So if a child can reads the book or has it, or his family reads it to them, and they know, oh, this thing they're going to put on my face, this mask, they're already a little bit more less anxious because they kind of know part of the game, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's never fun to come visit us. I mean, geez, a child's walking down the hallway, like, okay, what am I doing here? This doesn't look fun. So if they can at least understand that something on a less threatening level, then maybe it's a little bit more less anxious, provoking. So less anxiety provoking.
I love that. I have a child that deals with some anxiety, and that's an important part of the way we deal with almost everything is talking beforehand what we might expect or whatever. But even just for a child that doesn't deal with that as part of their everyday life, going into a scary situation, you're automatically going to feel anxious. So having that familiar, little.
And I also, to me, as well, that for the child, in my own heart, I hope that one day someone says, or a parent says, hey, remember, just like Luca and Soleil did this in CORE, like almost like a little support team for the child through the book, right? Like, okay, I got these characters in there. They're working on my behalf, right? They're working to help me be better. Okay, come on, guys, let's go. Like, do good things. And they're inside there doing their stuff. And in their world, their age level, they see it like that.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Now, how many times have I seen a cartoon on the TV in the ER where the parent goes, oh, remember, like, Doc McStuffins when they just put the stethoscope on? And how many times these are the things I see on the front, like, you see the parent like sees that and the child's okay, like that's what they're doing. It's not as threatening anymore. So I'm trying to inject a little of that, and hopefully one day a parent says, remember what Luca and Soleil and Mengistu and the crew did there to help Andre or to help Jean-Marc
Jean-Marc, that they can say they've read that book already, or their friend had asthma.
Heard about it. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, the book is going to go to my daughter's 4th grade classroom because that feels just like the right place for it to go, right?
That's so kind. And I have no problem coming and talking about it. If anybody has any of those opportunities, of course, spread the word, of course.
And she has asthma and was a patient of Mike Shreves, Dr. Mike Shreves. So so it's a great book, and I really can see this becoming a series of books. Is that?
I hope. The key is, and again, thank you again so much for this opportunity, because the key is these kinds of avenues to allow people to know that it exists. And maybe somebody out there says, oh my goodness, my kid, or I work for this, or unfortunately I lost a child with that, or whatever it may be, this would be a great thing for that. And I'd love to help, of course.
So where can people find the book if they would like to purchase one?
So right now you can find it on my website. It's in the book at www.drmarkstar.com. You can find it on Amazon and Kindle as well on Amazon. And those are the main places right now. But hopefully more to come.
Yeah, when you were talking about how you see these things when you're working with children in the ER, like, oh, you saw Doc McStuffins. In my mind, as you were describing these stories, I'm like, this would make a great cartoon.
Believe me,
Animated
my favorite medium, actually, thanks, Sarah, for bringing it up. In fellowship, in my world, we have to do a couple of years of training called fellowship in PGR. It's kind of how I met Julie. That's how I came to Children's in Minnesota. I had to do that training. And I did a study at that time because you have to do like research and whatnot as part of that training. And I made an animated video along with a team. And I wrote the script actually for it, and I had a team in Minneapolis make it. I got a grant from the hospital, and it was to look at teaching families about antibiotics, proper use of antibiotics. So you either got a pamphlet to read, or you got to watch this 3-minute video about Luca, oddly enough. And watching the video totally won out over reading some pamphlet, right, by parents and children. So I got to present that in San Francisco at the National American Academy of Pediatrics conference some time ago. And we actually had a bunch of calls from pediatricians around the country who wanted the video to play in their waiting room. So to me, animation is my favorite medium, but it can be pricey. And I figured, well, if I can maybe start with a book, but it might land in potentially the right hands, I would love to explore that, because then you can really visualize things, and you have a lot of room to play with adventures and with what is real, what's not, that kind of line between the two, right? Yeah, I would love that. That would be my favorite.
Yeah. I automatically thought like Magic School Bus.
Yeah,
like,
that's what I'm like. I started reading. I'm like, well, we could do a Magic School Bus type of vibe for this for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If anybody out in that land is listening, I'm here.
Yeah, for sure. How about a couple of questions just to get to know you a little better? Did you always want to be a doctor, or?
Yep. I think, well, my mom would say, if she's listening out there, well, he said he wanted to be, a dentist first, but I kind of knew from an early age that I wanted to be a doctor. I've always loved working with kids and hanging around kids, so pediatrics is very easy. And then I admittedly got to the pediatric world and said, well, maybe I need a little bit more stuff, so to speak. And then I got introduced to the pediatric ER, and I was like, this is where it's at for me. And then off we went. So yes.
So what was it about being in the, in emergency medicine that really just spoke to you?
That you have to know a little bit about a lot. There's that uncertainty of what's coming through the door next. It's always active. It's vibrant. Staff like Julie is wonderful. I just found sometimes it just feels right.
Yeah. I always tell people I turn the corner into the room and I don't know what's going to be there.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Which is can be daunting sometimes to be like, okay, am I ready to roll here or not? But thankfully, where I work with Julia, we have just tremendous supporting cast to everybody working together, try to be the best teammates for that ill child.
In the room where it happens, those are some of the best people in the world, right?
I hope so. If I'm allowed to be in that room.
Yeah, always.
So did you always enjoy writing too, or did the writing come from just you needed to get this idea?
Yeah, maybe I've never really been much of a writer. Maybe like birthday cards and things like that to the kids. I always would write them a story every year that they grew, like something very analogous to this, where I would just kind of, try to write them something funny about how they advanced from the year before, but necessarily nothing on this level. And then I just never, until I met Kim, I just never, how do you do this? How do you go about this? How does this work? And then you also have life and children and things like that, work and whatnot. Things get shoved to the side, and then I finally sat down after meeting. And I think part of the reason why I met Tim was in this realm of world, this is why we met. Our paths crossed a little bit here, that to help you out. And sometimes when I'm writing, I get a message or two from him to help me. Like, no, don't go down that way. Go down this way with the adventure. Okay. So
I love that.
Yeah.
That's great. Hey, would you play a little favorites game with us?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. It's not really a game. Just tell us your favorites.
You just go with the game part. It's a game.
Yeah, sure, of course.
Do you have a favorite movie?
Lego Movie 1.
All right. Yeah. Everything is awesome.
I love it. I just love, I joke with my kids, like, or with people at work, and they're like, I'm like, if you're ever on a plane with me and you see me watching Lego Movie 1, please respect that. Everyone's watching, some sort of drama. Who knows what's going on? I'm watching Emmett run down some alley. That's fine. But if you, again, because I love animations, I look at it from that angle as well, not just the movie. But to me, I just love anime. I love how you can move through the different adventures, all the room you have to play there. And then the message is just...
the message is so incredibly uplifting.
Exactly.
Unexpected out of a Lego movie.
So brilliant that and that's the point.
Yeah. There was a point in time where every day I heard "Everything is Awesome" playing out of the rest.
Of course. Every flight I'm on. In fact, one of our colleagues, her husband is a pilot at Delta. I said, Betty, if they ever take Lego Movie 1 off, Ted is going to hear from me.
I'm going to have to change airlines or something. Right? Absolutely. Do you have a favorite as an author now? Do you have a favorite book actually that you like to read?
I recently read The Alchemist. That was one of my favorites, but again, more for the mess. I mean, it was a great book, but the message itself about allowing someone and people to accomplish their goals without getting in their way or holding them up, and knowing that if you're meant to be together or you're meant to be friends and whatnot or beyond, then you'll come back even when you have to leave for a while to accomplish what you were put on this earth to do. Love it.
All the deep meanings. Okay, what about a TV series? Do you have a favorite show or something you're binging?
I'm kind of the White Lotus, of course, is like intriguing, but my kids would laugh at this. I'm still a massive Seinfeld fan. I'm a massive Big Bang Theory fan. It's on the TV all the time because I know every single line of every single episode, but they're easy to watch. Nobody's getting killed, that's my knowledge at least. There's, I see so much at work that is so daunting and so like pressurized, and a lot of these kids are not in good situations, whether they're ill or behavioral health issues, things that when I watch TV, I don't want to have to worry about who's the murderer, who left that piece of paper on the floor over there, and it's going to lead to their arrest. I don't need to think. I just want to watch straightforward.
And that's actually one of the reasons this podcast started, I would say.
The Hallmark movies.
Absolutely. Just like, why do you watch that?
No. But funny enough, I got that this winter. They're always on in the background as well, mainly at Christmas time, because that is sort of where they have really. And now they're obviously on top of the top shelf. But this particular winter, my daughter yes, the plots of this, but these are good. They're great, and they're easy to watch, and they have a good meaning, and they're not. Nobody's getting harmed.
There's no. The stakes are low.
Exactly. So she has to leave the marketing company to move to the farm in Idaho. Yep, got it. Yep.
His family's farm.
Don't worry.
John will be there waiting for her.
John the farmer is waiting there, and he just so happened to build a barn where you can start your next marketing company. Perfect. Which is perfect.
That's the way it's going to be. And will there be a misunderstanding of?
Yes, exactly. Or the uncle doesn't like the girl or something like that, and they have to work through that. Yeah.
And one random guy that looks like Santa.
Somehow they always it's like exactly. And more these days, it seems like some Hollywood actor who has actually had some traction to them. As I watch these more and more, I'm like, hey, wait a second here. This little cameos, they're getting more and more popular. So I guess it's drawing some attention to actors with more and more larger resumes, if you will.
Absolutely.
Which is great.
Yeah, fun. Okay, our next favorite. I threw this one in here. Do you have a favorite drug? Everyone's got a favorite drug.
Probably life, but from a doctor's standpoint,
whatever standpoint you want.
I'm going to say Zofran. I'm going to say Zofran. As a doctor, anti-vomiting, antiemetic medicine is my favorite. Zofran it is. On every vacation, on every... if I don't have a bottle, we're not leaving today.
Everyone needs a little Zofran because all that puking is just...
It has helped so many times over the last years.
I'm old enough that I was pre-Zofran.
Right.
And that was just bumpy. I'm just gonna tell you.
Right. You know what that is, Sarah? Even do you know what we're
Yes,
talking
I
about?
know
Yeah.
it is.
Sorry. I don't want you disrespectful. Yeah. That as far as my favorite drug, that probably from a doctor's standpoint.
From an
has helped.
emergency room doctor's standpoint, that is.
Yes, that has gotten me through many a night shift. Yep.
Yep. Zofran for everyone.
Yes,
And you get
exactly.
it there, and then they get it filled
Exactly.
at the outpatient pharmacy.
Yeah, Cetron. You can't call it Zofran anymore. You know.
Yeah, on Destron. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's generic that word, but
Right.
most people are not going to know that. So
Exactly.
on that's your anti-nausea vomiting drug. It's so many children have that as a part of what's happening with them.
Right.
So.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Poor things. What is your favorite topic to teach?
I hope that in dealing with my kids and whatnot who are now basically college level to teach, about how to be proper out there, to understand what good fortune we have, to give back, and to be kind.
Be kind. That's favorite.
Yeah.
Then music. Do you have favorite music band, musician, song?
I am there's a 3-part answer here. There's no A, B, or C here because they can all fit A, B, C. Yeah. I'm a massive Pearl Jam fan. I'm a massive Coldplay fan, and I love EDM.
Okay, Pearl Jam, Coldplay. Do you have a favorite song?
Pearl Jam would be that's a good one. Probably Wish List is high up there from the slower songs, and then there's probably Corduroy is a good jamming song. From Coldplay, Sky Full of Stars, of course. That's my favorite. And EDM is just I love melodic EDM. It's very rhythmic. In fact, I get a lot of my ideas from the book while I run on the treadmill, and I listen to EDM. It kind of allows me to vibrate at a higher frequency, so to speak, and allow me to be privy to some messages that'll come through that I can use as ideas in the book. So it just takes me away.
I love it.
Yeah, I love it.
So tell everybody again the name of your book, and maybe say one more time where they can find it, and we'll make a little clip of that.
Sure, thank you. So The Medicine Stars and the Breathtaking Adventure by Dr. Mark Schnellinger. You can find it on Amazon. There's Kindle version, and you can find it on my website at www.drmarkstar.com and www.drmarkstar.com. Sorry. Here we are.
Perfect.
Awesome. But it is right there on Amazon too. No trouble finding it at all.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
Great.
And I thank you for your time. This is wonderful.
Yes, thank you. It was fun to learn about your book, and hopefully we'll see some more adventures.
Yeah. Sky's the limit, and always believe in the stars. Their light and hope and their love and their freedom. It's unending.
And where should people follow you on social media?
You can see me at Instagram at Dr. Mark Star. Dr. Mark Star. Excuse me. Is really the one place that I've done so far, and then also on the website, which you could check out to find a pretty cool website as well. It's pretty awesome.
Well, it's been very fun to connect with you on both of our other things we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I can't thank you enough for the opportunity. I truly appreciate this.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, thank you, Dr. Mark, and thank you everybody for watching or listening. Don't forget to subscribe to our